Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Chee-Tash. My name is Chris, and today we are going to be talking about the final chapter in Motor City Drama by Russell Lee Duray. Chapter 14, The Big Three Pioneers Exit the Scene. Last time we talked about the arsenal of democracy and the Big Three's war effort and the production that had ramped up from the Big Three in order to send armaments to Europe as part of this land lease bill signed by FDR. FDR actually taps Bill Knudsen, who was GM president at the time, to head up all of the defense production. So very, very interesting in how the Big Three was a huge factor in the wartime production for the United States and how the United States ended up outproducing other countries that were involved in the war over the course of the war, the time period of the war. But let's just kick things right off, guys. Big Three Pioneers starting to exit the scene. First, we have Walter Chrysler, who unfortunately has a stroke at the age of 63 and ends up dying 2 years later in 1940. And Walter, as Russell writes here, famously said that he built with men and not machines. And I think that is a very, very, very powerful quote. Even with all the technology and innovation that was going on here, you still have people at the end of it. And I remember... my uncle told me this before, that you work for people, not companies. So at the end of the day, yes, you do have the logo attached to like the polo that you're wearing or the t-shirt that you're wearing, but your interactions on a day-to-day basis are with people, you know, who work for the company, yes, but they are with people. At the end of the day, it's your relationships with the people around you and what you bring to the table, what they bring to the table, and how you can combine that to run a good business. It seems like kind of Walter understood that. In 1998, Chrysler ends up being bought by Daimler-Benz, so it ends up becoming not necessarily a fully American company anymore, because Daimler-Benz, I think, is European. It's a European company. I want to say German. And then, of course, later it's now owned by Stellantis. Let's go to the next slide. Ford. So Edsel ends up dying in 1943. Edsel serving as the president since 1919, and Edsel dies of stomach cancer. So Henry, who's 78 at this point, wants to come in and take over after Edsel's death. But Edsel's wife comes up to Henry and says, hey, you need somebody who's familiar with all the new technology, all this new stuff that's coming onto the market. And Henry doesn't want to search outside the company. He kind of wants to promote from within. And not even that, he just wants to head it all up because he doesn't want somebody on the outside of the company running Ford. I mean, we've seen Henry's attitude towards this as far as like stocks and stuff. He just, the bankers, etc. It doesn't like any external factors in running his company. So Henry II's name is thrown out to head up the company, suggested by Eleanor. Eleanor is Edsel's wife. And who's Henry II? Henry II is Eleanor's son. So it is, what would that make? That would make it Henry's grandson. Henry the Deuce is what they called him. Hank the Deuce. But at the time, he's only 26, and he's in the Navy, so he's not even really, he can't even really be around that much. But they kind of find a way around it a little bit. And Eleanor eventually pushes Henry to step down. And how she does this is she threatens to sell her shares on the open market which would threaten, again, the internal containment of Ford. It would open it up to external investors, right? Ford doesn't want that. Henry accepts the situation and steps down, finally, at age 80, and Henry Ford II moves into the presidency in 1945 at age 28. So Henry says here, you give me no real choice. If this is the only way to keep our company private and have it run by a Ford, I will agree. It looks like you win, Eleanor. No, we all win, and the Ford Motor Company wins. And eventually, as Russell writes here, Henry Ford died in 1947 at age 83. Thousands of people paid their respects at his funeral at his beloved museum in Dearborn. Henry Ford's stock went to the Ford Foundation, making it the world's richest private foundation at the time because he was the first to capture the major share of the new automobile market. Henry Ford is known worldwide. If I can go to the next page. As the icon of the automobile industry, the Ford Motor Company in 2021 is still headed by a Ford, Henry's great-grandson, William Bill Clay Ford Jr. That it is. Next slide. Oh, Billy Durant. What happened to him? Billy kind of fell on some hard times. He declared personal bankruptcy in 1936. Although he did end up opening his first bowling alley in 1940. So he achieved his dream there, and that was in Flint, Michigan. But he ends up suffering a stroke in 1942 at age 80. So he ends up moving back to New York, where Billy eventually dies in 1947 at the age of 85. And as Russell writes here, in 1958, a marble slab monument was laid by the city of Flint in front of the Flint Cultural Center, inscribed with the following: William Crapo Durant, 1861 to 1947, founder of General Motors, 1908. In the golden milestone year of the corporation, its proud birthplace dedicates this plaza in lasting appreciation of what his vision, genius, and courage contributed to his home city and to the renown of American industry. So, the story of Motor City Drama. Lots of cast and characters in it, but really the big three: Henry Ford, the tinkerer; Billy Durant, the salesman; and Walter Chrysler, the motivator, as Russell writes. And I can kind of see that after finishing the book and doing more research into the automobile industry. You know, Henry Ford really kind of was a tinkerer. He worked back and forth between Edison and then on his other external projects from Edison, the bikes, the race cars. You know, it seemed like he was always kind of tinkering around with designs and such, trying to make things better, trying to make race cars faster. Billy Durant, the salesman, he wanted to merge all these companies together. And that's how we get GM as it's known today, with all these brands surrounded around GM, the GM name, you know, Chevrolet, GMC, Cadillac, Buick, etc. And then you have Walter Chrysler, the motivator, the guy who came in and saved Buick, the guy who would talk to the employees. Russell outlines a scene where he's sitting at lunch with some of the employees, trying to gain a better understanding of how he can make things better for them, it seemed like. And that's the story of the big three. And that's the story of Motor City Drama. Very cool book. Very cool book. Like I said, it's a fictional history. Russell kind of paints some scenes from history and kind of uses his interpretation to how they would have played out. And it's very, very cool. Kind of like a play, almost. But lots of cool and interesting facts that I never realized about the big three and like the auto industry as a whole after reading this book. And definitely something I would love to do more research into and do more videos on. But with that, we close out Motor City Drama. And that means that we are on to another book after this, which is going to be a surprise. I have some ideas on my mind. So tune in for that. And then also tune in to the Chee-Tash podcast, which will come out semi-frequently. Every week I'll have some either clips from interviews I do or full episodes from interviews I do. And you can check out the first episode I interviewed Russell Duray on his book and other things history. Very interesting guy. Very appreciative for him sitting down with me. So with that, I thank you guys for sticking with me on this journey through Motor City Drama. Really appreciate it, and hopefully you learned a little something, and hopefully I helped. I know sometimes maybe I don't know everything, and I might stumble through these or maybe not present them in the best way, but I'm trying, and I know that I will get better, and I want to keep doing this, and I want to bring some value into the world. So I really appreciate it, everybody. Thank you very much. This has been Chee-Tash. My name is Chris. Take care.